As the Russo-Ukrainian war continues to unfold, significant developments have emerged on the battlefield and in diplomatic arenas. On May 5, 2025, Ukraine showcased its growing military capabilities by deploying US-supplied AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles on naval drones, successfully downing 2 Russian Su-30 fighter jets over the Black Sea. This operation underscores Ukraine's innovative approach to warfare, particularly as it seeks to counter Russian air superiority. Lieutenant General Kyrylo Budanov, head of Ukraine's main military intelligence directorate GUR, confirmed that the missiles launched from Magura-7 naval drones targeted and destroyed the Russian jets on May 2. This achievement not only highlights the effectiveness of Ukraine's evolving drone warfare strategy but also demonstrates the critical role that Western military support plays in bolstering Ukraine's defenses. As Budanov stated, our forces are adapting and becoming more lethal with every passing day. In parallel, Russian President Vladimir Putin reaffirmed Russia's war objectives, emphasizing the goal of Ukraine's capitulation during a recent state television interview. He claimed that Russia possesses sufficient manpower and resources to prevail in the conflict, reiterating that a complete reconciliation with Ukraine is inevitable. Putin's assertion reflects a continued commitment to aggressive military operations as he seeks to solidify Russia's territorial ambitions despite ongoing international condemnation and sanctions. Analysis of the conflict reveals a stark contrast between the two nations' military strategies. While Ukraine leverages advanced technology and international partnerships to enhance its combat effectiveness, Russia appears to be preparing for a prolonged engagement. Putin's rhetoric suggests a strategy of fostering domestic support for the war, framing it as a moral and patriotic duty which may indicate a readiness for a long-term conflict. Observers note that Russia has intensified efforts to militarize society, promoting a narrative of sacrifice and resilience that could be pivotal in sustaining public support for the war effort. Recent assessments from the Institute for the Study of War (ISW) indicate that Russia remains focused on its initial objectives, including the demilitarization of Ukraine and the installation of a pro-Russian government in Kyiv. Putin's statements reflect this unwavering stance despite the challenges faced on the battlefield. The ISW's analysis highlights that Russia's military campaigns continue to result in significant casualties, with estimates suggesting over 45,000 Russian soldiers died in 2024 alone, marking the deadliest year since the conflict escalated in 2022. The situation remains fluid, with ongoing military engagements across various fronts. Ukrainian forces have reportedly made advances near Toretsk, while Russian troops continue to push in areas such as Kupiansk and Luhansk, showcasing the persistent volatility of the conflict. As both sides prepare for potential escalations, the international community remains vigilant, with diplomatic efforts ongoing to seek a resolution. In a recent development on the diplomatic front, U.S. President Donald Trump engaged in discussions with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan addressing the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Trump described the conversation as very good and productive, suggesting a continued interest from the U.S. in mediating peace talks, although he acknowledged the complexity of achieving a resolution. Trump's remarks reflect a broader sentiment among Western leaders regarding the challenges of negotiating a peace settlement, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasizing the importance of tangible progress. As the war enters its third year, the prospects for a swift resolution remain uncertain. Both Ukraine and Russia appear entrenched in their respective positions, and the potential for further escalations looms. The international community must continue to navigate this complex landscape, balancing military support for Ukraine with diplomatic initiatives aimed at fostering negotiations. The coming weeks and months will be critical in determining the trajectory of this protracted conflict, with the hopes of millions hanging in the balance. As the Russo-Ukrainian war enters its 1166th day, the conflict continues to witness significant developments, particularly in Ukraine's military capabilities and tactical operations. Recent reports highlight Ukraine's innovative use of US-supplied missiles mounted on drone boats, marking a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle against Russian aggression. On May 4, 2025, Ukrainian military forces successfully downed 2 Russian Su-30 fighter jets, a feat that underscores the increasing sophistication of Ukraine's defense strategies. The Ukrainian Military Intelligence Agency HUR confirmed that both aircraft were targeted and destroyed near Novorossiysk in southwestern Russia, utilizing air-to-air missiles launched from naval drones. HUR head Kyrylo Budanov hailed the incident as a historical moment, emphasizing that it demonstrates Ukraine's enhanced long-range capabilities in both aerial and maritime domains. President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his gratitude to the forces involved, stating, "The shooting down of a Russian military aircraft by our naval drone was brilliant, proof of Ukrainian capabilities." This development comes amid a backdrop of escalating drone assaults on Ukrainian cities, particularly Kyiv and Kherson. Russian drone attacks inflicted civilian casualties and damage to infrastructure, with reports indicating at least 4 fatalities and numerous injuries across various regions. The Ukrainian air defense systems reportedly intercepted a significant number of incoming drones, yet the persistent threat underscores the ongoing volatility of the situation. In response to the intensifying conflict, Western allies, including the United States, are stepping up military support for Ukraine. Recent decisions include the refurbishment and transfer of a Patriot air defense system from Israel to Ukraine, alongside discussions about supplying additional systems from Germany and Greece. Notably, the U.S. Air Force has provided decommissioned F-16 fighter jets to bolster spare parts for aircraft donated by European partners as part of a broader $310 million military assistance package. As military dynamics shift, Ukraine's strategic initiatives extend beyond its borders. On May 4, Ukrainian forces launched an offensive near Tyotkino in Russia's Kursk Oblast, challenging Russian claims of a complete liberation of the area. This incursion, involving approximately 250 Ukrainian service members and heavy equipment, aimed to disrupt Russian artillery positions while also diverting attention from other fronts. Ukrainian officials have dismissed Russian statements regarding encirclement and defeat as propaganda, asserting that their forces maintain an active defense and offensive posture. The conflict's human toll continues to rise, with estimates suggesting that nearly 950,000 Russian troops have been killed or wounded throughout the war. UK military intelligence reports that 160,000 of these casualties occurred in the first 4 months of 2025 alone. Despite suffering heavy losses, Russian forces have failed to secure substantial territorial gains, a situation that fuels ongoing military and diplomatic tensions. Zelensky has reiterated the urgent need for a ceasefire, challenging Russia to reciprocate with genuine commitments to peace. As hostilities persist, the international community remains watchful. The evolving military landscape suggests that Ukraine's innovative tactics and enhanced capabilities could play a critical role in shaping future developments. The ongoing support from Western allies is likely to further influence the trajectory of the conflict, as both sides prepare for continued confrontations in the weeks and months ahead. As the war endures, the need for dialogue and a sustainable resolution remains paramount, even as both Ukraine and Russia brace for the challenges that lie ahead. In a surprising development in international diplomacy, Russian President Vladimir Putin has accepted an invitation from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit India. This announcement, made by the Kremlin, marks a significant moment in the evolving geopolitical landscape and underscores Russia's efforts to strengthen ties with key allies amid ongoing tensions with the West, particularly regarding the war in Ukraine. The invitation comes at a time when Putin is facing increasing scrutiny over his leadership decisions, including his comments on potential successors and the use of nuclear weapons in the conflict. In a recent interview, Putin expressed a hope that nuclear weapons would not be needed in Ukraine, a statement that reflects both his awareness of the dire implications of such an escalation and his desire to convey a sense of control over the situation. "We hope that the situation will be resolved without resorting to any extreme measures," he stated, signaling a complex balancing act between military readiness and diplomatic overtures. Putin's acceptance of Modi's invitation is emblematic of a broader shift in global alliances, With the United States ramping up sanctions and other pressures against Russia, countries like India have become increasingly vital for Moscow. As noted by experts, India and China together account for a substantial portion of Russia's energy exports, providing a crucial economic lifeline. China is now Russia's most important trading partner, accounting for around 40% of its imports and 30% of its exports in 2024, said Vasily Ostrov, a Russia expert at the Vienna Institute for International Economic Studies. This reliance on non-Western allies is further emphasized by geopolitical shifts, with countries like Turkey also maintaining trade relationships with Russia despite pressure to impose sanctions. The economic implications of these dynamics are significant. While Russia has demonstrated surprising resilience in the face of Western sanctions, recent forecasts suggest that the momentum of its wartime economy may be waning. The Kiel Institute for the World Economy predicts a GDP growth slowdown, projecting only 1.5% growth for 2025 and a mere 0.8% for 2026. This downturn is exacerbated by high interest rates and a stifling investment climate, particularly in sectors like automotive and construction. The ruble's recent appreciation against the dollar, spurred in part by expectations of a more conciliatory U.S. approach under a potential Trump administration, highlights the volatility and unpredictability of Russia's economic landscape. As Donald Trump hints at a policy shift that could involve intensified sanctions, particularly targeting nations that trade with Russia, the global economic environment remains precarious. Trump's proposed secondary sanctions could significantly impact countries like China and India, which have been pivotal in supporting the Russian economy. The implications of such sanctions could lead to a recalibration of trade relationships and financial systems, Ostrov noted, emphasizing the interconnectedness of global economies. With Putin's upcoming visit to India, the stage is set for potential discussions on defense cooperation, energy partnerships, and broader economic ties. As both leaders navigate their respective domestic challenges and international pressures, the outcomes of such meetings could have far-reaching consequences not just for Russia and India but for the geopolitical landscape at large. Looking ahead, the interplay between Russia, its allies, and Western powers will continue to evolve, particularly as the situation in Ukraine remains unresolved. The coming months will be crucial in determining how these relationships adapt to ongoing pressures and whether diplomatic engagements can pave the way for a more stable regional and global order. As the conflict in Ukraine enters another tense phase, President Volodymyr Zelensky has articulated a potential pathway to peace contingent upon Russia's willingness to engage in serious negotiations. Speaking during a visit to Prague, Zelensky asserted that a ceasefire with Moscow is possible at any moment, provided Russia agrees to a prolonged halt to hostilities. He emphasized the need for a ceasefire to last at least 30 days to allow for meaningful diplomatic discussions, a stark contrast to the 3-day truce proposed by Russian President Vladimir Putin, which Zelensky dismissed as a theatrical show. Zelensky's comments came after he rejected Putin's ceasefire offer scheduled for May 8 to 10, coinciding with the annual victory parade in Moscow. The Ukrainian leader argued that a mere 3 days would not allow sufficient time for peace talks, stating, "We cannot play games to create a pleasant atmosphere to allow for Putin's exit from isolation." This rejection underscores the ongoing skepticism in Kyiv regarding Moscow's commitment to genuine negotiations, especially in light of continued Russian military offensives. In a joint press conference with Czech President Petr Pavel, Zelensky reiterated that the lack of increased pressure on Russia would prevent any real progress toward ending the war. Today marks the 54th day that Russia has ignored even the American proposal to completely ceasefire, he noted, highlighting the urgency for international allies to bolster their support for Ukraine. Pavel echoed this sentiment, asserting that Russian President Putin has the power to end the conflict with a single decision but has yet to demonstrate the will to do so. The backdrop of these discussions includes increased military activity in eastern Ukraine, particularly around the strategic city of Pokrovsk, where Ukrainian forces reported facing 70 attacks in a single day. This escalation reflects the complexities of the current military landscape, where diplomatic overtures are often overshadowed by battlefield realities. Ukrainian officials reported that overnight attacks from Russia included drone strikes on Kyiv, which resulted in residential damage and injuries, further complicating the prospects for a peaceful resolution. Meanwhile, Zelensky's diplomatic outreach extends beyond Europe as he aims to strengthen ties with African nations, emphasizing mutual support and historical connections. His recent visit to South Africa marked a significant diplomatic milestone, aimed at forging alliances that could help counterbalance Russian influence on the continent. This engagement is part of a broader strategy to enhance Ukraine's global presence and secure partnerships that align with its national interests. Adding to the geopolitical dynamics, Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to visit Russia for the VE Day celebrations, where he is expected to discuss the deepening of strategic ties with Putin. This visit highlights the ongoing collaboration between China and Russia, even as Ukraine seeks to rally international support against the backdrop of the conflict. As the situation continues to evolve, the potential for a ceasefire remains uncertain. Zelensky's call for a 30-day ceasefire could provide a much-needed window for negotiations, but achieving this will depend on international diplomatic efforts and Russia's responsiveness to increased pressure. The coming days will be critical, not only for the future of Ukraine but also for the broader geopolitical landscape in which the war is unfolding. The world watches closely as both sides navigate these complex negotiations amidst ongoing hostilities.